They say small towns are safer, that nothing bad ever really happens, where everyone knows your name. But that's not true. Sometimes small towns hide things deep in their woods, buried under years of silence. Things that never go away, even when everyone pretends they did. What you're about to hear isn't a story I made up. It's something I've tried to forget for years. A memory that comes back every time the wind shifts, carrying that same sweet, rotten smell from the forest. This is what happened to me. In Hollow Brook. I was 13 the summer we moved to Hollow Brook. My parents said it would be a fresh start. What it really was silence. We left the city behind in a haze of exhaust and honking horns, trading apartment noise for long, empty roads and pine forests that never seemed to end. The town looked like something out of a postcard, a diner, one gas station, and a convenience store that doubled as a bait shop. Everyone waved at each other. Everyone smiled. My mom loved it instantly. My dad muttered something about peace and quiet, but I hated it. I missed the sound of traffic at night, the hum of the subway under my window. Here, the nights were too quiet. It wasn't peaceful, it was hollow, like the town was holding its breath. For the first few days, I just helped unpack, counting the tiny cracks in the ceiling when I got bored. The Wi-Fi didn't work. My phone had no signal, and even the air felt too still. That's when I met them, Ethan, Jake, and Will. I found them behind the old school shooting hoops on a cracked basketball court. Ethan was the loud one, blonde hair, Red Sox cap, easy grin. Jake was shorter, solid, always cracking his knuckles. Will barely spoke at all, just smiled and nodded, like he was thinking 10 steps ahead. "New kid, huh?" Ethan asked, spinning the ball. "Yeah," I said. "From Boston." They exchanged looks. City kid Jake grinned. I thought they were making fun of me, but then Ethan said, "You ever had a hideout?" When I said no, he smiled wider. "You're gonna love this." The next afternoon, they showed up at my house with their bikes. We rode past the edge of town, down dirt roads that curved deeper into the trees. The air grew colder, quieter. Then I saw it perched high in the arms of an ancient oak tree. The treehouse. It looked old but strong. Wooden boards nailed tight, a rope ladder swaying gently in the wind. I climbed up last. Inside, sunlight filtered through cracks in the walls. Carved initials covered every inch of wood. There were a few camping chairs, an old deck of cards, and a faint smell I couldn't quite place, sweet but rotten underneath. Ethan grinned. Pretty sick ride it was. It felt like the kind of place kids were supposed to have secrets safe, untouched by adults. We talked for hours. Dumb kid stuff. Superheroes, video games. Who'd win in a fight. It felt good. Normal. Then Will mentioned her. Ever hear about Sarah? That name hung in the air like smoke. "The girl who went missing?" I asked. They nodded. Jake shrugged. "Parents freaked out after that. Think someone's out there snatching kids." Ethan laughed, trying to sound brave. "Yeah, right. Hollow Brook's too boring for that." But Will didn't laugh. He was staring at one of the carvings in the wall. The name Sarah scratched deep into the wood. The treehouse became our place. We went there after school on weekends, even when it rained. It was freedom. No parents, no rules, no expectations. And for a while, it stayed perfect. But over time, things started to feel off. We'd show up and find stuff moved. Chairs in different places. Flashlights missing. Once we found a candy wrapper none of us brought. Ethan said it was raccoons. Jake said maybe other kids found the spot. But Will just looked at that strange smell again, that sweet, heavy scent that never faded. One night, while the sun bled into the trees, Ethan said, "We should stay here overnight." I laughed, thinking he was joking. But he wasn't. "Come on," Jake said. "Our parents are paranoid. What's the worst that could happen?" And that was it. That's how we decided to stay. One night, just to prove nothing bad ever happens in Hollow Brook. If I'd known what was waiting, I'd have burned that place to the ground before sunset. I waited until my parents went to bed, then snuck out through the back door with my sleeping bag. The air was damp, the kind of cold that clings to your skin. The others were already waiting at the dirt road, flashlights in hand. We smiled, whispered, tried to keep quiet. It felt like an adventure. When we reached the treehouse, everything looked the same. The same carvings, the same smell. Maybe a little stronger that night. We set up sleeping bags, cracked open soda cans, told ghost stories. Ethan laughed so hard, he nearly fell over. For a while, it felt like we were invincible. Then, sometime after midnight, I heard an engine, low and rough, cutting through the silence. At first, I thought it was just my imagination. But then headlights pierced the woods, slicing through the branches below. The beam swept across the trunk of the tree, then stopped. Ethan sat up. You hear that? The engine idled, then died. Silence followed. No doors opened, no voices called. Jake crept to the small window and peeked out. "That's not my dad's truck," he whispered. My stomach twisted. A door opened below, slow, heavy. Footsteps crunched in the dirt. Whoever it was, they were coming closer. Will whispered, "Maybe it's a hunter." But no one hunts that deep in the woods. The footsteps stopped right beneath us, then creak. The rope ladder moved. Someone was climbing. Ethan's breath hitched. Jake grabbed the flashlight, pointed it down. For a split second, I saw him. A man face hidden by a hood, staring up at us. Not a sound, not a word, just watching. Then he climbed faster. I didn't think. I ran. I threw myself out the window, hit the dirt hard beam, shooting up my legs. I didn't look back. Branches tore at my face as I sprinted through the trees. Behind me, screaming, "Jake, Will, Ethan." Something thudded against the ground. Then Ethan's voice broken, crying out in pain. "My leg, I can't." I turned just long enough to see him crawling. Jake pulling at his arm, the man stepping out of the shadows behind them. That's when I ran harder than I ever had in my life. I don't remember getting home. I just remember pounding on the door, screaming for my parents. Then police lights, sirens, questions I couldn't answer. By the time they got to the woods, the man was gone. They found Jake first, bruised, terrified, but alive. Will showed up an hour later, still running. Ethan. They carried him out on a stretcher. His leg was broken clean through. For a while, that was enough. We were alive. We thought it was over, but it wasn't. A few days later, the police found the truck half buried in the creek outside town. And in the trunk, they found Sarah, wrapped in plastic, hidden under old tarps, cold for weeks. When they ran the plates, the name hit every radio in the department. Mr. Harris, the janitor from our school, the man who always smiled, who called me kiddo, who told me Hollow Brook was the safest town in the state. I remembered how he'd looked at me that afternoon, leaning on his mop, saying, "Don't go wandering too far, all right? Those woods can be dangerous." After that night, I didn't see Ethan, Jake, or Will again. Their families moved away. My parents wanted to too, but we couldn't sell the house. No one wanted to buy anything in Hollow Brook. They said Mr. Harris disappeared before the police could arrest him, that his truck was stolen, that someone else could have been driving it. But no one really believed that. Sometimes when the wind blows from the woods, I swear I can smell it again. That same sweet, rotten scent from the treehouse. Last week I got a small brown package in the mail. No return address. Inside was a rusty key and a note that only said, "You forgot something." And when I opened the window to throw it out, that scent hit me again, thick, sweet, and wrong. I don't go near the woods anymore. But sometimes at night, I see headlights between the trees. And I know somewhere out there the ladder is swaying again. I told myself it was over. That the police would find him. That the woods would finally be quiet again. But Hollow Brook never forgot. And neither did I. Some nights when everything's still, I can hear the creak of that old rope ladder swaying in the wind. Sometimes I swear, I see headlights between the trees stopping waiting. If you ever find a town like this, one that feels too quiet, too perfect, don't go looking for what's hidden in the woods. Because once you find it, it might start looking for you.